The biggest lie that's costing you years of your life is believing that you're just born a socially anxious person, that some people are normal and the rest of us are just doomed to be outsiders that nobody really likes. But from one deeply emotional person to another, let me tell you the reality. You're not wired or born socially anxious. Your social anxiety is your subconscious way of ringing the alarm bells that something in your life is deeply, deeply wrong. And if you don't try to uncover what it's trying to warn you about, you're just going to live the rest of your life feeling small and dreading every day that you wake up. So today I'm going to share with you what your social anxiety is actually trying to warn you about and how to act on it so you can finally have a life that you're excited to wake up for. Now here's why I wish someone had told me when I was so convinced I was just this quiet, awkward person. This truth would have saved me years of my life. I want you to imagine that you are a pilot flying a plane in the air. You're 30,000 feet in the air. In front of you, there's a cockpit with like 1,000 different buttons. When things are going smoothly, the view is breathtaking. You're feeling on top of the world, quite literally, right? Everything's great. But when something goes wrong, everything's ringing. Like all the buttons are flashing red, there's alarm bells, and you have no idea what's going on. You're freaking out, you're panicking, and people in your life are just saying, do some breathing exercises, do some grounding work. It's going to be fine. Stop reacting like this. You're going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. But here's the thing. They're driving buses. They have no idea what it's like to be up here. For them, it's simple, right? Just pull over, just top up your gas, change a tire or two, and you're good to go. But for us, we might crash into a mountain. This is existential stuff. So you've been spending your entire life listening to people who are driving buses when all you need is someone who understands the cockpit to tell you what are all of these flashing buttons and what do they mean. Now, someone who has seen these flashing buttons time and time and time again, they always point to one of three things. So for the first one, have you ever had someone who just gets on your nerves? This one person, it could be anyone. It could be a boss, a colleague, a mother, a mother-in-law, a parent, a friend, whatever it is. They just get on your nerves, and whenever you talk about it to people, usually people say, just ignore them, or, bosses are bosses, mother-in-laws are mother-in-laws, like moms can be moms. They just kind of brush it over saying, just ignore them, don't pay them too much attention, or try to work on communication. But they don't seem to get how you are really frustrated by them. They seem to get to you, but you're made to feel like, okay, you're just making a big deal out of it. You're just being very sensitive. What's happening here is when you're flying planes, you've got a ton of radar systems. You're picking up so many different signals that people who are driving buses cannot pick up. They have no idea what they're talking about, right? So I'm going to give you an example. So I once had someone who came to me because she wasn't feeling great about herself at work. She just had gotten promoted to manage a team, but she didn't feel like she was capable of managing a team. So when we talked about it, I noticed that there wasn't anyone who was actually upsetting her at work. Her colleagues, her boss, everyone seemed to be pretty supportive of her. But as we dug deeper, I realized that she would make a couple of calls a week to her mom. Now, her mom was just straight up unhealthy. Whenever she gets on these calls, she would usually have to prep herself like 10, 20 minutes before her mom calls. She usually have a specific time that her mom would call in. And during the whole call, the mom usually just talks for 30 minutes straight. And whenever she said anything, her mom would somehow make it about herself or make it something like, oh, you could have done this better. She's always making these kind of snarky comments, making it about herself or just comparing her to other people in her family. So by the time she put the phone down, she was out of it. Her mind was buzzed out. She felt like she had been attacked for the last 30 minutes. And when I asked her about it, she said, oh, no, this is not really a problem. I mean, it's stressful, but all moms are stressful. And I said, why would you think that? And she said, well, I talk about my mom to my close friends. And they said even they kind of don't really like having conversations with their moms. And so I said, wait a second. I'm not sure what your friends' moms are like, but from the conversations you've been telling me, your mom is unhealthy. She is disrespecting you. And this is supposed to be the person who's supposed to pick you up in life. They're supposed to be your number one supporter. And you're telling me that she's constantly putting you down, criticizing you, comparing you to other people. And this is happening 3 times a week. So she came to me because she said I was having a lot of self-esteem issues at work. But when we really nailed it down, it was actually the calls with her mom that was pulling her down. So this first alarm is telling you that someone in your life is deeply, deeply disrespecting you. And you are picking up all these signals that's telling you that this person does not respect you in any way whatsoever. And if anyone driving a bus could pick up those signals, let me tell you, they'll be extremely anxious and feeling like trash about themselves as well, right? But they don't pick up all these things. So from their experience, it's just, well, moms are moms, like you can just get over it. So what happens is when you don't realize that this is a problem, you end up being told that you're overreacting, just ignore it, don't pay attention. You are basically teaching yourself to accept the deep disrespect that you have worked so hard to heal yourself from. Now, no wonder you're having a lot of self-esteem issues that's translating into social anxiety. Or maybe you have a boss that's just not outwardly unhealthy, but just drains you a lot because they made a ton of passive aggressive statements. They tend to breathe down their throat sometimes. They give you compliments, but they seem to be backhanded compliments. It's one of those subtle things that you're picking up, lots of little things that make you feel like you're not really respected, or they don't really value you for the work you do, but you can't really put it into words, right? And when you share it with colleagues or anything, they'll just be saying, oh, it's just bosses being bosses. No boss is perfect, but you just don't think about it. You're reading too much into it. Yeah. Something like this will drive you insane because you're picking up all the right signals. You have your advanced radar system, right? You're picking up all of these signals and they cannot understand what you're saying. So you are being forced to tolerate all of this toxic energy. You are being forced to tolerate all of this deep disrespect that will obviously create such a sense of self-doubt, such a sense of conflict in you that usually manifests as social anxiety. So as deeply emotional people who spend so much time just working on ourselves to heal from our childhood emotional neglect, it's not as simple as just ignoring it. It's not as simple as just, don't think too much about it. You have to acknowledge that you are being deeply disrespected. Otherwise, that alarm system is going to keep ringing and destabilizing you. Now, this can even happen for romantic relationships where you guys feel lots of love for each other, you're maybe very comfortable with each other, but have tons of fights. Doing this without actually acknowledging the root of the problem is going to result in just an erosion of your self-worth and just make you more sensitive over time, just doubt who you are. So it really is like this alarm is trying to tell you that there's someone in your life that is not aligning with who you are, either disrespect or just making you erode your sense of self-worth. Now, for the second alarm, if you ever have that deep sinking feeling in your chest when you're thinking about your future, or having this dread whenever you wake up to a workday, or it's taking you a lot more energy as time goes on to get the same amount of work done. You just have to push yourself so hard and sometimes you just can't get any work done. This alarm might be the alarm that you're dealing with. So I once had someone who worked with me because she was feeling just one of those things, right? Where she felt like she just had so much productivity issues. She felt like she just couldn't get anything done, lots of procrastination. She felt bad about herself as a result. But the thing is, she had a job that was quite stable. She'd had it for many, many years. She was doing a good job. And lots of people were telling her, oh my God, you've got it good, right? A stable job, pretty good income, everything's great. So the thing is, that job gave her stable work, but not meaningful work. And that was what really mattered to her. She wanted to do things that felt like had meaning to her. That she wanted to be working on hard problems, solving things that actually mattered to her. And even though, yes, the idea of safety sounds great, it just wasn't something that was aligning with who she really was and what she really wanted. So for the longest time, she was listening to everybody saying, stick to the safety, stick to the stability. You know how hard it is to get a stable job and keep a stable job, especially in this era. But on her end, she's feeling almost guilty that, yes, I understand. I have this stability. I have this income. But this isn't something that really excites me in life. And here's the thing. As deeply emotional people, these values, these things matter even more than what most people care about. And it would seem absolutely insane to other people when they see that we might be giving up jobs that are seemingly perfect jobs for most people to do something that seems so much more risky and unstable. But I've also had people who had the opposite problem where they had really, really good jobs, right? It was impressive titles, great salaries, but they kind of felt dead inside, like very empty, even though they were seemingly great on the outside. It was taking more and more effort to put in to care about the work at all. And you start feeling more and more alone, like you're existentially lost. And this is when your alarm bells will start ringing like crazy, because basically what it's trying to say is that your life path, your life trajectory did not factor your core values. And the only way you get to hear and understand what your core values are is by understanding that you are a plane flying up in the air and not by listening to the people who are driving buses. Now for the third alarm, it's a little bit tricky. If you've ever found yourself saying or thinking to yourself, this is not the kind of life that's worth living, where just everything feels overwhelming. Life feels overwhelming, whether that's feeling like every small interaction, everything from the relationships to the life trajectory, all of it just feels way too heavy. You seem to be getting triggered all the time. It just feels like life is wearing you down, and you think, okay, is this it? Is this how life is supposed to be? Because this is not something that's worth living. Then this third alarm might be signaling you. So here's how that works. Now, when you go through trauma or emotional neglect, what happens is it forms like a wound. And if you don't pay attention to this wound, your personality, your behaviors, everything kind of grows on top of this wound. So all of these things are influenced by this very wound. And it makes you unhappy, it makes you triggered easily, it makes you sensitive, it makes you live in a state of pain even though you have no idea why that's the case. So minor turbulence in the airplane feel like catastrophic events. Think about the time that a colleague maybe said something and it upset you and you couldn't stop thinking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. Or maybe something happened with your family member and you just couldn't stop ruminating about that specific situation. Maybe you freeze up whenever someone raises their voice even slightly, or you just shut down whenever there's any sort of conflict because maybe you felt like anger meant abandonment. Now, all of these things, it doesn't mean that you are overreacting, it doesn't mean you're sensitive, it doesn't mean any of these things. It just means that you have all of these wounds that are begging to be seen, to be found, to be addressed, to be healed. It doesn't mean that you are any type of person except for a person that needs to be seen and to be understood. Now, when you aren't aware of any of these 3 alarms and what they actually mean, do you know what you end up concluding? That you're a shitty pilot, that you're broken and you can't do anything right. You end up thinking, wow, everybody just seems to live life with so much ease and just handles everything so calmly and confidently. Yeah, of course they are. They're driving buses. There's signs, there's GPS, there's maps. You are 30,000 feet in the air with no manual. And there's not even much guidance into how to even live our world. Of course you're going to freak out. Which is why what I'm about to tell you is going to feel completely counterintuitive. Your social anxiety is actually not a bad thing. It is your subconscious so desperately trying to warn you and alert you so that you can live a life that's aligned with your values, a life that actually fulfills you. But if you ignore it for long enough, those alarm bells, those flashing red lights, yeah, they're going to stop flashing. And that's when you start to feel numb. And then it's going to be close to impossible to try to actually find and connect your deepest values. So how do you determine which of the alarm bells are ringing for you? Well, the most common answer is that you're pretty aware of which of them is ringing for you. Usually, most of the time when people come to work with me, they are aware of which alarm bells they're struggling the most with. Sometimes it's not as obvious as the example I gave previously where someone came to me for work and then realized it's actually, it's not the trajectory, it's not the work itself, but it was actually a relationship. It was the second alarm that was ringing the most. And then it led to the first alarm because she wasn't even aware that the second alarm was actually leading to the first alarm. So it's always kind of interconnected. So it's not really about which of the alarm bells are ringing because you usually have a good intuition, a good sense about which of them are ringing. It really is about how do you trust yourself enough to read your radar, to trust that that's actually what's happening when you spend all your life listening to people who are driving buses, who are telling you you're overreacting or giving you their reads of the situation when they have no idea what you're even talking about. So how do you learn to trust all the things you're picking up on your radars and then actually act on it? And that's exactly the kind of work that we're going to do together. It's not just about identifying which of the alarm bells are ringing, but teaching you how to read all of the different radar systems that you have, which does 2 amazing things. The first one is that you instinctively learn to trust yourself. You're not overreacting. You're not reading too much into it. You're accurately reading the situation, and intuitively you learn how to place boundaries and keep yourself away from people that just drain you, that devalue you, that make you feel small. Even if everyone around you is telling you that you're just overreacting, you learn how to trust yourself. And the second thing that your radar allows you to do is it allows you to pick up all of these tiny little details in the people around you that can help you create a much deeper connection than most people can. Because think about it, you're in a plane, you have this bird's eye view, and this enables you to see people in a completely different light and connect with them in a completely different way. So you'll learn how to keep the toxic people out while being able to form much deeper, meaningful relationships. And if that's something that you've been looking for the longest time, then you can click the link in the description below to book a call with me and see if working together might just be the turning point that you're looking for. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.